Master, sir? I heard Yoda talking about midichlorians. I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
It's heroin.
Hello and welcome back to Pulp Culture Explosion. Today we have a special episode for you. We are doing a Star Wars panel and we're going to be talking everything about Star Wars. We have three new guests with us today. We have Ray, we have Brett, of course returning as always is Mike, and Jeff. These guys are Star Wars geeks. I mean, we put up a posting on Craigslist and we actually filtered 1,000 Star Wars geeks, and we found the best ones for you. So basically, this is going to be raw, we're just going to be talking, and I'd like to introduce with our first question is, guys, you know, Star Wars has evolved over the years. I mean, in 1977, George Lucas had this space opera of a show. He had no idea of how big it was going to get, I believe. What are your thoughts about, Brett, the evolution between 1977 Star Wars A New Hope and then fast forward 30 some odd years to Force Awakens?
Well, I'll say that in 1977 I was still far from existing, but my first exposure to Star Wars was probably the late 80s, catching it I think on cable, but it has definitely evolved quite a bit since then. Unfortunately, I didn't get the experience of having Star Wars be a standalone entity when I first saw it, so I already kind of had heard from friends what happens in Empire and Jedi, so it wasn't that thing of it was a standalone and then what might happen next and what might happen next. It was already an established, laid out storyline. But it was interesting to see it progress from being that standalone initial space opera and expanding out into then we get the family ties that were kind of, if you read the original drafts of A New Hope, definitely not there to begin with, or there were extra characters merged in and things like that.
Let me that is an interesting perspective, because I know myself, Ray, Jeff, Mike, we saw it as kids. So I mean, Ray, do you remember when you saw this in the theater for the first time?
Absolutely. I was just thinking about it this week. 77 on top of a giant white cargo van, crawling around playing with the Luke Skywalker and Han Solo figures that we had just bought that day. I remember more playing with the figures than I do watching the movie, but I was like, well, wow, it's this guy with the white on, this guy with the gun, with the black vest on, and blown away. And that's like one of the earliest memories I actually could remember of my childhood still, because it's just like so ingrained.
Mike, how about you?
What, going back to 77?
Can you?
I vaguely remember.
Well, you're probably, what, 4?
20?
Yeah, I was about 4.
You're about 4, yeah.
I think my dad took me to see the first Star Wars. My aunt took me to see Empire, and then my family took us all to see Jedi. So I do remember those. So that, yeah, I was there, you know.
How about you, Jeff?
I remember my father taking me, and I wanted to see it because I had, even as a little kid, liked watching the reruns of Star Trek, and I was into science fiction and all that, so I saw this movie out with spaceships, and I was excited about going to see it. So I remember my father taking me to see it.
And for me, I mean, I don't really remember Star Wars when I was a kid, but I remember I was watching some movie, and this was before internet, so all of a sudden we see this trailer for The Empire Strikes Back, and I think that's probably my first real memory, is just seeing this trailer of Empire Strikes Back and me just as I was probably 10 years old, just freaking out over that. So I'm going to, real quick, I'm going to go through all 4 of you guys. In the original trilogy, favorite movie, why? Right.
Empire Strikes Back.
Why?
The drama. It went from the happy story to they set up everything, Hans and Carbonite, Luke loses his hand, you find out his dad's Darth Vader, all the tragedy happened. It just like spills everywhere, and it was so exciting.
I'm going to go with Empire too. Pretty much the exact same reasons he said. It went dark. It got really deep and really heavy. versus kind of the light happy of the first one or the resolution of the third one. So
And we had to wait 3 years to find out what happened. It's like,
Well, that was just painful. Mike,
Alright, so this is a kind of a issue for me because growing up it was Empire. And because it was always about the lightsaber battle with Luke and Vader. That whole ambience, that whole thing right there, that was my favorite of the whole trilogy, right? But when I got older, I seemed to find something about the first, Star Wars that I liked, I think, over Empire. It was kind of a weird, shift I had there where I actually preferred the first one, preferred Star Wars. So now I'm kind of wrestle with it,
leaning more towards Star Wars though?
These days, I think maybe Empire again. I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth with that one. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think, and it's just because of the tone of the first one, the tone that carries through it. I think was something I favored more. So I don't know.
Jeff?
I would have to say Return of the Jedi.
It had to have been the Ewoks, right? You love
I
the
love
Ewoks.
the Ewoks. I do. I like the being on another planet and another species and interacting and helping the rebels. I kind of like that, and the whole Jabba the Hutt, and and everything kind of seemed to get resolved in a way at the end, and you find out the backstory of characters, and I like that one. And also the one Revenge of the Sith, I kind of like that one too.
The thing, and I'm on the same page with you with the Return of the Jedi. I think that's probably one of my favorite ones too. But it's because we saw Luke grow up. I mean, in Return of the Jedi, he was a Jedi and he kicked Darth Vader's ass, and he did it restraining himself while he fought him. So I think if he went full Jedi on Darth Vader, he probably would have been a much quicker fight, I think.
Yes.
Well, that's actually kind of refreshing to hear Jedi come out because I think masses are always, it's Empire, most of I think that's kind of could be looked at as one of the more popular ones.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
And-
Right? Do you have a,
I was gonna say if they hadn't gone with the Ewoks and gone to the Wookiees like they were originally supposed
Oh, he
to
knows.
do,
I don't know this guy. I was
and
gonna
they
say-
did it in Revenge of the Sith. Then they kind of tied it together. If it had been Wookiees, the movie would have been totally different. The guerrilla warfare versus the teddy bear warfare would have been. It could have been better, possibly.
I agree with you. I think the movie would have been much better if they would have went with Wookiees instead. So going with the same theme, and again, we'll probably get a similar answer across the board. Who was your favorite character? I'm going to broaden this question because if we just go with the trilogy, it's going to be a very simple answer. When we look at, I don't know if you guys ever watched the Clone Wars at all, the animated series, which is considered canon, and going with all 7 episodes. Jeff, who would you say is of the 7 episodes plus the Clone Wars, if you watched it, who's your favorite character?
Chewbacca.
Really?
Chewie!
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think he's like the loyal friend. You always count on Chewbacca. And I just like
And when I don't want to speak of that scene, but when you saw Chewie's heart just break when we lost the dude, and
Right.
when he went badass on everybody, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, Mike, who's your favorite character?
All right. Well, Han Solo, obviously. Harrison Ford, Han Solo. I mean, top character of all time, of all movies, right? So let's put that aside because that's an obvious one for me. So Han Solo aside, now I can answer your question.
Okay.
I would go with probably Boba Fett. And what's irritating to me is Luke has created these awesome characters like Darth Maul, Boba Fett, whatever, and you get 2 seconds of them, or they kill him off or whatever. So I'm gonna go with probably Boba Fett.
Brett, and who's your favorite character?
I think I'd go with Han Solo. We see a lot of character development in him. He goes from being, and he never truly loses it, but he goes from being a rough and tough smuggler to a family man. We actually see a drastic shift. He doesn't lose all of his roots, but he definitely changes in his behavior and his style. I kind of value that a little bit.
Your character?
It's got to be Han Solo. coolest guy around, drives the coolest ship, has the swagger with the ladies. Like he's everything you want to be as I was in junior high and high school, so by far. But now if we're including the holiday special,
Oh, we all, I should have said this.
you didn't include it, but
We the holiday special. Sorry, I threw up in my mouth for a moment. Ray, I interrupted you. I apologize. Please continue.
Wait, are you a fan of the holiday special? What's
oh,
that?
absolutely.
Really?
Well, see now I cut down my own version. It's
Okay.
20 minutes long,
Okay.
so it's just all the crap aside. But I like Boba Fett would be my secondary character, and there was an article this week about how he was supposed to be more of the focus of Episode 6. That's why they introduced him in the holiday special and then into Empire, and then he was going to be the main villain for 6, and then they scrapped it and cut the series down.
I just read about that.
I just read about that as well this week. That's pretty interesting.
Because they were going to do the 7, 8, 9, and then Lucas said, "Oh, I'm not going to do it, so I'm
Oh,
just going to kind of have him hit a sail barge and die in 10 seconds." So that was pretty.
Which it is official, I think, Disney canon that Boba Fett did survive the Sarlacc pit.
They
I've seen
did.
it on YouTube, so it must be real.
Well, I saw it in Robot Check-In, so I figured it was true. So yeah. All right, so let's go back to Han Solo for a second. Since we grew up with the 30-year-old Han Solo, the swashbuckler, the swag. We fast forward to 30 years. Now we saw a much older Han Solo and a much older Princess Leia. As a kid, I always remember Princess Leia with the buns.
So you said she had great buns.
She had great buns, and it was very distracting. How emotionally, how did you feel when you saw the grandpa and grandma version of Leia Brett?
It was. I wasn't really sure where he was going to be at when we saw him.
Did you see the same character? I think I should let me take the question down. Did you see Han Solo? Did you see Princess Leia?
I did, because we eventually go to see what has developed in that 30-year gap we've been looking at. But initially we see Han and he's still with Chewie, and they're still in space, and they've just boarded a ship. So I mean, as far as we know, Han's the same guy. He went through the romance phase, and then we've had a break. So not till later do we actually see how he's developed and the children and the things like that. So initially, yeah, he's the same guy. He's just, I think, matured.
Mike?
Of course, he stepped right back into Han Solo. So, but yeah, I was curious to see where he was going to be at, because I've read different things, scripts that were supposed to be spoiler scripts, online and stuff like that ended up being changed or not true. So yeah, I mean, I did. I don't think there was any big emotional impact about seeing Princess Leia or General Leia now. They kind of, I don't know if they just kind of threw her in there just to have her in there. I mean, she didn't have any big impact for me.
Going up, I mean, what did you think of with Princess? I mean, was Princess Leia needed, Chuck, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a sadness, kind of like both Han Solo and Princess Leia kind of beaten down through by life. What happened with their son, and they blame them. Maybe they blame themselves, and they just seem kind of Han Solo too, kind of tired, just kind of like tired.
There was some anger about at the very end when Ray and Chewie got off the Millennium Falcon. Princess Leia knew that Han Solo had died. She hugs Ray versus Chewie. Do you think that was an accident by J.J. Abrams, or do you think that was actually a choice that he made for her to do that?
I'll just cut in right there.
Sure.
That was a mistake by Abrams, and that was talked about.
Oh,
It was a glaring error.
There was a glaring error.
Yes, it was.
oh, okay. Sorry,
It
Ray.
makes sense. I do feel it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
How could you not like Han and Chewie? It's not
yeah. I mean,
Han and Ray.
and I noticed that immediately.
I'm curious to see if it's foresight setting up for the future to make the bond between those two going forward, though.
Yeah.
If that was his intention, it kind of like made him not see the Chewie part.
I'm gonna go into a little theory here, and I want your guys' take on this. there's so much speculation on who's Rey's parents are. So much speculation. I'm just gonna ask a question. I'm looking for a one-sentence answer. If you don't know, you don't know. Ray, who do you think Rey's parents are?
Luke.
Brett,
Probably Luke.
Mike?
J.J. Abrams came out with he just basically said that we haven't seen them yet, then he retracted the statement, and then I don't care.
You don't care. All right, Jeff.
It would seem like Luke Skywalker, but
See, I'm going with Leia and Han.
No.
I could be dead wrong. We could put money on this, but
That'd be too weird.
it would be too weird.
I think going back to Abrams when he said we haven't seen them yet, we've seen Luke, but we haven't seen them. And I think that was a key word for me when he said that, because I was like, oh, because we haven't seen the wife yet, or the mother. So he could say we haven't seen them. Small word.
Didn't he also come out and say that we're overthinking this a little bit?
But that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
That's why he did it.
Hey, I have a question I'll be asking you guys later about totally overthinking something. So,
That's why she has a birth certificate.
do any of you guys, I know Mike, we played Battlefront one night at your place with Star Wars. Ray, did you collect any of the video games with Star Wars? And if there was there one that stuck out?
I early in the '90s had them all. The early Dark Forces were great, and that was the multiplayer game. And then the third one in that series was Mysteries of the Sith, where they introduced Myra Jade, which was probably my favorite video game. They had this great concussion thing you could shoot at your friends and everything, which was awesome. Plus, it was like the first edition of an expanded universe character into an official Lucasfilm game, which I was really excited about.
Brett, how about you?
My first Star Wars game was X-Wing for the PC. Flight stick. Got it for Christmas. It was I'm not sure that CD actually works anymore. I might have burned through it. And then TIE Fighter. I played them all the PC ones for a while.
Mike, I know we played one game together.
As far as like a game that would stand out would probably be Shadows of the Empire.
Whoa!
I was just sitting there thinking, I missed Shadows.
Can you, Mike? Can you just say that one more time? Your favorite game, and I love the reaction. It was pretty awesome.
Shadows of the Empire.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I mastered that one for sure. Obviously there were some other ones, a few, but that one stood out, and Rogue One on N64. Those come to mind immediately.
Jeff?
I'd have to go back like 30-something years with the Atari. There was a game with the AT-ATs or something. I don't know.
That was terrible.
I'm not a video game person, so
No.
I don't.
And that's
I don't-
okay. That's just fine. There's this elephant in the room. We've actually haven't even come close to touching it. We've talked about the trilogies. We talked about Force Awakens, episode 1, 2, and 3.
Oh God.
Now, I have to. These movies had to have been made. They needed to be made. I personally, if I don't ever watch episode 1 ever again my entire life, I'm going to be an okay man with that. So with that being said, the consensus. I mean, Jeff, are you a lover of the first 3? Are you a hater?
The dialogue is bad. I think the writing is kind of cheesy in a way. I remember my son. He's going to be 9, so he's kind of just watching all these movies now, and he watched the Phantom Menace, and there's that Jar Jar Binks character, and he's like, is he in this whole movie? It's like, he's kind of annoying, but other than that, I think just they got better. I think because the Phantom Menace was kind of boring, but the story needed to be told and whatnot. But by the time Revenge of the Sith, they got better. They were more into it. But the first 2 I didn't care for too much.
Mike?
Oh God.
I think we can leave it at that. Brett, so what are your thoughts on the first 3?
I will say, because this was the first ones I got to see live. Like I went and saw all the special edition re-releases. That's a whole other topic. In theaters when they came out in '97. But the Phantom Menace was the first Star Wars I got to experience in the theater, like releasing with everybody else. And at the time, it was amazing. Like the pod racing was exhilarating, and having all the loudness, and it was awesome. And the Duel of the Fates with Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn, it was an incredible experience. But in hindsight, the writing wasn't so great and things like that. I think it just comes down to Lucas wrote and directed all 3 of the prequels, and he only wrote and directed one of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And he knew when to outsource.
Mike, how many times did you see Phantom Menace in the theater?
All right, so I saw Phantom Menace 5 times in the theater.
In the theater.
Yeah, and I think I was drinking through most of it, so that is, no, I kind of agree with Brett said. Is like we hadn't had Star Wars for so many years, and like going, it was a big deal and all this. So yeah, I was like, oh, Star Wars and all that. So after the dust settled and the years went by, you're like, I just grew more angry and more angry about the whole thing. And I mean, my view of that whole trilogy is kind of like what Jeff said. It got slightly better. I mean, overall, they're a train wreck. I hate them. I'm so angry about where, and I go in my mind how I would want to see it. They should have taken care of all 3 of those storylines in the first movie, and then had Vader whooping ass across the galaxy, and then the second 2, whatever. But okay, fine. But there was some good things about those movies.
Oh, they were. I mean,
like he said, the pod race was really cool. That was my favorite part when I was watching those. The lightsaber battles with Maul and the Jedis, that's cool. There was, I'll have to get back to you on episode 2 if there was anything cool about that. But I watched Revenge of the Sith fairly recently, and aside from the flat dialogue and all the green screen and CGI and the bad acting and everything else, there was, I enjoyed the lightsaber battle at the end, and it's just Disney needs to give us a reboot of that trilogy. Period.
Ray, do you agree with Mike that Disney should do a reboot with this trilogy?
That'd be a lot of effort. And
They have nothing but money and time.
Canon though, and the characters, and Ewan McGregor did a wonderful job as Obi-Wan. I mean, I think that's probably the best thing to come of that series.
Ian McDermott.
Well, my favorite Star Wars character is Palpatine.
That's great.
Not Darth Sidious. I loved him as Palpatine.
So sneaky.
Oh, he manipulated everybody. I mean, he had the Separatists. He had the clones that he could manipulate. He manipulated the Jedi. Anakin. Oh, I thought Palpatine by far was the best bad guy in the entire franchise. My opinion.
So the scene in episode 2 when he's talking about Plagueis, is that Snoke?
I'm gonna go with no.
They said
said no.
Who's they?
Who's they?
The head of Lucasfilm Canon, he answered on Twitter the other day. He said Plagueis is not Snoke. Plagueis is dead. So.
See, I'm disappointed to hear that.
I would love to see him alive. I think.
So would I.
Because the music, how they match, and all that when they talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
There's a lot of it,
Yeah.
and they could be lying too.
Oh, of course.
Let's. So we've mentioned Jar Jar Binks. We've talked about the prequels. Mike, thank you. If it wasn't for that video you forwarded to me, well, by the way, this video will be in the descriptions. I apologize for giving this thought even an ounce of credit, but there's rumors that Jar Jar Binks was a Sith Lord.
Oh, yes. It was supposed to be.
Was he supposed
He's
to be?
supposed to be.
He was supposed to be.
That's the theory.
But
that he was supposed to be a Sith Lord, or that he was a Sith Lord.
And that somebody didn't like that with Lucas. Was like, no, don't do that, or no, it was because of the backlash.
yeah, there was so
that
much
Jar Jar
backlash
Binks.
against Jar Jar that they ended up just, and that's where we got Darth Christopher Lee's character instead.
Dooku.
Count Dooku. Yeah.
So what you're saying is the original idea was to have Jar Jar Binks be a Sith Lord. That was the original idea, and since everyone hated Jar Jar Binks with so much passion, that they switched it over to Count Dooku.
Yeah, in episode 2, can you imagine Jar Jar Binks walking out and revealing himself to Yoda, and they battle it out? I mean, what? I don't know if you think that things couldn't get worse. You know.
But
You
at
know-
the same time, you're framing that through your lens of hatred for Jar Jar.
Well, this is true.
If,
I mean,
if he had
what-
come off well, you might think of it differently.
If Jar Jar Binks didn't have that crazy voice,
The voice.
and he was a more serious character, I could probably buy it.
If Michael Jackson had done it like they had hoped to do it, would you have bought it? He was originally slated to be Jar Jar.
No.
They wouldn't
I'm
have.
not sure that would have been any better.
The guy who said you saw big doo-doos, Jar Jar, like that
Boss
kind
Nass.
of, like, if he came off like that guy instead, and he was more of a badass, well, then I could maybe buy that, but.
Okay. I'm a huge fan of the Clone Wars, and we now have Rebels Alliance. I thought the writing in the Clone Wars, not the original Clone Wars movie, I thought that sucked a little bit. But the series itself, I fell in love with that show. I thought the writing was rich. They introduced new characters. Did you guys watch the Clone Wars? Was it Cartoon Network, I think it was? Ray, did you?
I watched them all, and I
Yeah.
watched Rebels for the first 2 seasons, and I really enjoyed Rebels a lot too. So, canon to me, I enjoy it.
Yeah, you're getting your fix of Darth Vader and
Absolutely.
Rebels, which is nice. Brett, did you watch?
Clone Wars is one I'm actually working my way through right now. Lucasfilm released a revised order that apparently didn't air in chronological order, so I'm kind of working my way through that list, but I'm not super far in yet. So
I don't think we've ever talked about Clone Wars. Did you watch that show?
It's too close to episode 2 with the whole Clone Wars thing, so I'm just gonna open up my trash can and throw that in there. I have no interest in that.
No, Jeff.
I didn't get into that.
You know what, Mike? You're missing something because
It's not like I haven't seen it. I have started to watch them. I own some of the DVDs. I just if I see battle droids, I want to open my mouth.
Unfortunately, we are dealing with the exact same battle droids that we see in the movies, which is
We
pretty.
talk about
bad.
just a no meaning sort of have a bunch of guys to fight just to fight them because they're weak and we can destroy them and nobody's really in danger. I mean,
Yeah, they're robots. There's no death involved.
And I think that's probably my biggest complaint about, especially with Attack of the Clones, where you have a clone army which you have no emotional connection with at all. You have a droid army which again you have no emotional connection with at all, and they're just fighting each
and
other.
then you have Gungans, which you
Really
hate.
hate.
it's probably the strongest emotional connection.
You hope to see
Yeah.
him get shot.
So a couple of years ago, I heard this rumor that Disney is purchasing the Star Wars brand from George Lucas. I seen some articles. Some people weren't fans of that. I was thrilled. Real quick, initial response. What was your first response thought of when that happened?
Completely excited. They've got the money. They
Yeah.
can do it. They can do it right. They'll do the research. I was all for it.
Brett?
I actually remember uttering a whoopee in my car when I
Yeah.
read that in the drive-through line.
Mike?
I was excited. I thought they're finally going to get this right.
And Jeff?
I got excited taking my kids to Disney World and seeing, what's all going to be there now.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've read someplace that Disney's going to spit out a movie every year until
Until we
It
get
doesn't
tired
make
of it.
money.
until we're dead, which is fine with me.
And then they'll keep doing it.
Yeah, after I die, that's fine. So with that being said, we've already been treated with The Force Awakens. That felt like a Star Wars movie. It smelled like one. It tasted like one. But I'm more excited about Rogue One than I was about Force Awakens. When I saw that trailer, I've seen that trailer at least a dozen times. Jeff, do you view Force Awakens as the Star Wars movie that we needed, or do you see Rogue One as the Star Wars movie that's really...
I loved the Force Awakens. I loved it, and I was really looking forward to it, and it didn't disappoint. It seemed like it kind of followed the first episode 4, kind of the story arc in that one. So it seemed like like the original trilogy again. So I liked it, but Rogue One, excited about that too.
Yeah. Mike?
Okay, so a quick show plug. If you want to hear everything I have to say about that, go see our episodes on the Rogue One trailer and our Force Awakens episode 9.
And we'll put those links in the
Yeah, we can
description
put
as
the
well.
links. However, I will say that, boom, the unveil of Force Awakens is awesome. We love it, right? And Disney's like, now we can get to work. boom, boom, boom. We're gonna give you this. We're gonna give you this, sort of thing. So that's one way I look at it is they did it well. They made all kinds of money. That opens the doors to give us more cool stuff.
Right.
I got chills when I watched the trailer. I'm just excited about the anthology films in general. The idea that we're not just going to follow the Skywalker line and that's going to be all we get with Star Wars. We get to explore this rich universe that's around it as well. So, looking forward to those one-off every other year movies quite heavily.
And right.
I like the idea of the standalones to be able to go in and dig out some of their stuff. Again, being a big expanded universe fan, it crushes so much of me every time I see, Force Awakens. I loved it, but it killed so much history that I had, read for 20 years, and this new one again, where I'm like, oh, that could have been Grand Admiral Thrawn in that movie, and there's the whole Star Wars Rebel Agent, the Dark Forces series covers that story, so it's like wiping that out of existence, and the trailer looks amazing. I'm sure it's going to rock, but at the same point, it's like that's altered universe to me right now.
So I want to go. So when Disney purchased the Star Wars Lucasfilms, they did gut a lot of the stories of the expanded universe out of canon. Why do you think they went that route, Ray?
To make more money. Well, to make more money because you could do standalone stories like this. You don't have to include characters that are now older that you couldn't use in those movies. Just to start something fresh. And again, I bought all those books, and now do I have to buy all these other books? Again, it's just the Disney monster, which I love and appreciate, but also, kind of broke my heart a little bit when I heard these things didn't happen, which I assumed they wouldn't, but there was part of me holding out that they could pull out. But I still, you went back to Shadows earlier. That guy they fired from one of the solo projects said he was working on a Shadows storyline that fit in between Empire and Jedi, which I was like, why did he get fired? I hope they still do that story, because Prince Shizor and Yuri and all that stuff could be amazing. But I was really disappointed when he was fired. So
Yeah, well, you're touching on something that really angered me. What they did with that, when they just said, "Oh, it's not." They should have kept the expanded universe, and they expanded on the expanded universe and used it,
work around it,
or maybe did some tweaks to it, whatever. But because everything that I have seen that's supposed to be canon now is garbage.
Yeah.
That Aftermath novel, I threw it down after 50 pages. I was like, eh. And the comics, I'm just not feeling them. I mean,
Now, Mike, you
except wait, I will say that the Star Wars comic is good. The Darth Vader is phenomenal, but some of the other stuff in there is just, I don't know, not feeling it.
I always struggled with the expanded universe a little bit, and I fell in love with a lot of the characters in it. Mara Jade, a ton of them. I really, really, really liked the characters, but Lucas was so loose with allowing things in the expanded universe too that a lot of stuff disagreed. Like things did not match up, and there was so. And Disney said they'll keep. They're not. It's not all gone. They're reserving the right to pull things out of it, and so we may see things become canon again, but they needed to start with kind of a clean slate moving forward. I'm going to argue the expanded universe got a little ugly.
Oh, definitely.
They could have at least hired somebody to fix that and make the continuity work.
Right.
Because there was such great
Golden
stuff in
thread
there.
through everything.
Oh, sure, and they haven't actually. I mean, it's not canon anymore, but they're
You can
not.
cherry pick it.
They're cherry picking, but they also haven't stopped selling other books. You can still buy Heir to the Empire. You can
It's
still
all
buy.
legends.
So
is what they call
they've
it.
kind of put it off into an alternate universe. So I mean, it's not like. I mean, yeah, I guess we lose it as canon, but it's not like they're pulling it from the market and disavowing its entire
Yeah,
existence.
it's only if it really means that much to you to say that it's not canon. As far as you know, you can go read those books all day, and that's your world. That's your Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just need to establish a clean canon to move forward from. So
Yeah.
No,
I see both sides.
Makes sense. No, I mean, I'm right there with you, Ray. I'm more excited about the Rogue One, about the Han Solo Kid, the Boba Fett standalone movie. I'm more excited about those than I am about Episode 8. Just because, with Rogue One, we get Darth Vader back. And that is what really gets me excited. I mean, what really got my heart going in that trailer was when you saw the AT-AT walkers coming in when they're charging. And it's like, those were the AT-AT walkers when I was a kid. I mean, that was my favorite toy. And so, no, I'm just really pumped about that.
Well, the upsetting thing about all this now is they should have been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
And that we're waiting. Now I'm into my 40s, and now I'm finally getting a
But-
Rogue One type
But,
of
but
movie.
George Lucas, this was never his passion.
Well, right, right.
And I think he accidentally created this monster that he had no, he really had, I mean, okay, let's talk about George Lucas for a second. Okay, my humble view on George Lucas is he gave us a amazing gift. He created a rich and robust world. He's a horrible writer. Ray, what is your initial, when you think of George Lucas as, you know, was this an accident?
No, I think he's a visionary. I think he has the storyline. I mean, you look at Star Wars, it's a fairy tale of a princess getting locked up in a castle, the old wizard helping the young kid. I mean, it's a classic story, but he created characters around it that were really interesting and that I wanted to know about. His writing skills, not so great. I think the overall arc of his idea, minus Jar Jar, he's done really well. I think placating to children has killed him, like he did in Jedi and making them Ewoks. I think Phantom Menace was placated. It was totally just geared at like 5-year-olds, and they stepped it up as they went in those first 3 movies. But that's a fault in his vision. He's like, oh, I have to get this new generation to like it, but you know, everybody still liked it if they hadn't gone so young with it. So.
Brett?
I will say that I agree. I think Lucas gave us a great gift in Star Wars. I would almost argue that he gave an equally great gift in Industrial Light and Magic. If I can take a
Yeah.
sidestep for just a sec, he revolutionized an industry that was dead. Special effects wasn't going anywhere.
No, he didn't.
And he spawned, and we have all of it now to thank for it. Everything that Disney owns him now too. No, I think Lucas was a visionary, but yeah, his writing we saw in the prequels when he ran the show himself. We kind of saw the quality we got just from that. But again, it's not a slight on him because he gave us something great, and I think wisely, good or not, he stepped out of the way at this point and is letting a team of experts run with it.
Mike?
Well, I do talk about my thoughts on Lucas in the last couple episodes, but you got to watch the Charlie Rose episode where he interviews Lucas. Then you will understand Lucas. You know, I don't really fault the guy. I mean, he wants to make documentaries. He wants to do experimental films. That's what he wants to do. And you got, you know, this thing that he created, you know. So, I mean, the guy's a genius and he's a visionary and everything else. But you can only catch lightning in a bottle so many times. I mean, what he tried to do, he said about Force Awakens, he didn't want to go revisit the same thing. He wants to create something new. He wants to push the envelope. And that's what he did with prequels, but that didn't work for the fans. So,
And Jeff, what are your thoughts on George?
Well, I think right now he's he's concerned about getting his museum. But no, he created this whole world, and you know, we give him credit for that, and like the special effects that he's done. But I think yeah, like you said, I don't think this was his passion to do. You know, that's probably why he sold it to Disney. And
I'm sure the
made
$4 billion.
a lot of money. Cashed in on it.
Fine, I'll take the $4 billion, sure.
Which
Yeah.
he mostly gave to charity.
I want to be very clear. I'm not a hater of George Lucas at all. Matter of fact, I mean, like I said, he gave us this amazing gift. He created an amazing story. He's just a crappy writer, and that's okay. But then again, I'm a crappy writer, so I can't judge.
And we haven't even talked about Howard the Duck or some of these other.
Willow.
Well, Mike and I were
Something
actually
else
talking
going
about
on,
Howard
yeah.
the Duck earlier today, and
I'm sorry.
yeah, me too. So
that was heavy laden in sarcasm.
it was.
Unless
So-
you weren't, you know, unless you were being serious. Then
No,
we'll
that
have
was
to talk about
sarcasm.
that later.
Okay, so let's go with the final thoughts of Star Wars, and of course that right there could probably take an hour and a half. But I want to give you guys each about 2 minutes. So Ray, final thoughts on Star Wars, the whole.
I'm just excited about it moving forward. Like, I've got my history of Star Wars, to have a 16-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, and like what they're gonna see in the 50 movies that Disney could produce, you know, moving forward. That one day when I'm dying, I'm like, no, I just saw the trailer for episode 42.
Please, doctor, give me 3 more months.
Can I get a special screening with that one?
Yes.
I think it's where it needs to be. Extra directors getting involved. Kind of like when 92, when they opened it up to the stories of the books. I was so excited to get that first Heir to the Empire book, and I was like, there's more. And so now to see more in movies. I would love to see a whole expanded universe, like cartoon movies. The whole Zahn trilogy, the Kevin J. Anderson trilogy, Shadows of the Empire. There's so much good story that could be that legendary. That would be my future goal, to see some of those made.
Brett?
I think I like the direction Star Wars is going. I also have a lot personally to thank it for. It gave me a lot of joy in my childhood and growing up. Gave me exposure to John Williams, and I've developed a giant movie score of thanks to that and appreciation for him and others. Gave me a lot of fun to play when I was a kid. You know, it's a joy to watch and explore. There's so much info there. I haven't quite gotten to the level yet where I bought in the technical manual books for the starships, but it's probably not that far off because I need some new reading. But it's given me a wonderful piece of my life as culture, and I can't wait to see what comes next. I really can't. And I know with the large investment that Disney made, they're going to do it right.
Yeah.
And I trust them implicitly for years to come on this one.
Mike, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I think that Star Wars developed my creativity. So when we were kids, we got the figures. We obsessed on the figures and buying that stuff. And we played with the figures, but we also, these days we would probably call it LARPing. We would run around the neighborhood with the guns and be the characters and stuff. So when we played with the figures, we always made scenarios. We were like writing our own movies constantly. So that really, I think, was mind expanding, at that certain age, or those ages growing up. So I think that was really a huge thing that the movies gave us, was the creativity, and just obviously the enjoyment, collecting, buying the figures, and Chris and I made stop animation movies with the figures and stuff. So it was filmmaking, right? It forced us to solve problems. It forced us to figure out software. How do we put lasers on the screen and do all that stuff. So just a lot of enjoyment, a lot of creativity. So yeah.
Jeff, how did final thoughts with you on Star Wars?
Star Wars has just always been a part of my life in some way. From back when my father took me to see the first movie to my wedding. We had the intro and everybody's at the wedding parties introduced. We had the disco Star Wars from Miko in 1970, whatever. This is funny, but
My obsessional was the throne room.
But now my son and daughter, I mean, they're seeing these movies now, and I still have the old action figure toys. I've given them to my son. He plays with them, and just seeing him get into it, and my daughter, and these new movies, they have strong female characters that my daughter likes, and just I think it's on the right track, and I'm just looking forward to what comes next.
Cool. Well, guys, I just want to thank you for your time this morning. I really enjoyed your insight, enjoyed the conversation, so thank you guys very much. And thank you guys for watching today's episode. We will have plenty of links in the description, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, were we on target? Were we not on target? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. So please, like, share, subscribe, and peace out.